All right. So, in Inner Fitness, again, my name's Judy. And in this particular session, our topic that we're going to explore spiritually is the topic of speed. Sounds crazy, I know, but let's see where it goes. First, as always, we're going to start with a bit of a reflection. So continue. Hopefully, you are seated comfortably and continue to do so if you are. And if not, make arrangements so that you are seated comfortably. And eyes can be open in a relaxed way if you want to experiment with that. And giving yourself a moment or two to really settle the body into the space, feel physically relaxed. So you're welcome to take a breath. It doesn't have to be forced or large, just a natural breath in. And as the air is released from the lungs, it helps to cue the muscles in the body to relax as well. We often can hold physical tension without even knowing it. So again, take another breath in if you choose. And as the air slowly releases, might help the shoulders to relax, muscles in the face, wherever you secretly hold tension, inviting it to melt with the release of that air. And a second benefit of focusing on this care for the body is it helps us to recruit our attention, helps us to focus. So now it's a little easier to shift that focus from the body upwards to that place behind the forehead, that invisible space known as my inner world. And this is where life actually happens, is my inner world. It's a place of thoughts, feelings, memories, impressions, attitudes, perceptions, and perspectives, a lot going on. And it's through the state of my inner world that I experience the outer world. So if my inner world is peaceful, then I experience the outer world in a more peaceful way. If my inner world is light, then things don't seem so heavy in the outer world. Solutions come more easily. Very often, it can feel like our mind is racing in our inner world, leaping from one thought to the other, not necessarily even coherent, and moving very fast. And we often blame this on the state of the outer world. But in fact, it begins here in my inner world. The mind has developed the habit of racing. But with attention, I can actually support my mind in slowing down. As simple as just watching the flow of thoughts, me observing my own thoughts, and I observe from a still place, a bit like the eye of a storm, all the thoughts swirling around me. And just by virtue of being in a still, steady place. The power of this calm observation helps my mind to slow down. I can start to look at the thoughts my mind creates and even make choices. Which thoughts are necessary and which thoughts I can let go, fade away, just by observing from a calm, steady place. The art of slowing down my own mind will come as much as I practice every now and again, going into that steady, calm place of the observer and strengthening the art of slowing down my own mind. Om Shanti. So warm welcome again. And our topic is speed. Very exciting. So what usually happens with inner fitness is we take a term that we will see in physical fitness and then see how it applies spiritually or to my inner world. So we look at, just starting from the easy place, look at speed in a physical sense. Top of the list that comes to mind might be the sprinter going down the track. But when we look at speed in a physical sense, what kinds of ideas come into your mind when you think about speed in the physical sense? Just free associating. I have one whisper to me of aerodynamic. So if I am aerodynamic, I have a very funny story about that. If I am aerodynamic, then I have greater speed. So very quickly, when I was in junior high, I did run track and field, as I'm sure many of us probably did. I did run track and field, sprinter. The shorter the race, the happier I was. So sprinting. And so speed is a huge part of that. And I had been given a gift. And I think about it now and it just makes me embarrassed. But anyways, the gift was an Adidas tracksuit. It wasn't this great. I mean, this is back in the Stone Age. So, you know, things were made from just cotton or fleece or so. I don't even know. It just made you hot. I don't know why anyone would make the tracks. Anyway, so I had this tracksuit and it was bright yellow. So when I wore it, both the top and the bottom, I looked like a banana. So I had this bright yellow tracksuit I'd been given as a gift. And usually what happens with the tracksuit is you wear it for warm up and then you take it off when you actually are going to race. But I loved this banana outfit. So I decided to start, you know, with doing our training with it still on. I was dying of heat in this thing, but, you know, it was new and all. And I'll never forget, talk about not being aerodynamic. I'm sitting there trying to sprint as fast as I can. And, you know, the air was getting caught in the back of the jacket. So I had this balloon behind me that was creating incredible drag, incredible drag. And my coach was just laughing at me because they knew exactly what was going on. So and then I took it off, obviously, as I continued to come in last. So aerodynamic, huge in terms of, so this is really efficiency, huge in terms of being able to go fast physically. Anything else that comes to you when you think about speed from a physical perspective? Again, you can chat, or if you're comfortable to unmute, go ahead. You still will not be seen, but you're welcome to chat. Type in the chat box if you prefer, if any great inspirations come to you. You are deep in thought, aren't you? I'm going to give you this so that you can speak as you need. Sorry. Raj, that virtual background is very exciting. You appear and disappear. Oh, there you are. Ooh. Yeah.
I know this isn't really a physical thing again. I know we're talking about physical speed, but I was thinking about athletes. They're really focused.
Mm.
Like if you're sort of distracted, I don't know if it would have the same impact to be able to move in that one single direction kind of
Yeah.
speed.
So it's true that with the speed, there is definitely a sense of focus. And what actually becomes really important is that you be very clear about where you're focusing, because you will go very quickly to whatever you're focusing on. So if you're not focusing on the finish line or your destination, if you're focusing on something else, you will go quickly towards that. So this is well known for race car drivers, that they really have to. They're going at a very high speed and they will move quickly to wherever they're focusing. So their focus has to be incredible and in the right place. I mean, think about yourself when you're driving down the street and you look at the billboard and your car is kind of drifting out of the lane towards the billboard. Imagine doing that at a very fast speed. So it's true, focus is involved, but you have to be very careful about your focus.
And last one I was thinking was timing. Like
Timing.
I was thinking about when it's a race, you
Mm,
have to go at the right time when they
right.
say go.
Yeah.
If you go too early, you're disqualified. If you go too
Yeah.
late, that
You're
makes a
not,
difference.
oh, you're gonna
Or
be
the
at a
passing of the
disadvantage.
baton.
Yeah, yeah, no, timing is huge, and it's true. I remember so often um, being in that starting block, and you want to go. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. This habit has stayed with me till this date. I notice it when I'm at a traffic light. Light turn green, I'm gone. And there's cars that are like there for ages waiting. And I always have the same thought. I don't know if they do well as a sprinter. But of course, it's very safe to wait and make sure the intersection's clear, right? But in racing, you want to wait for the gun and just be on the gun as well, right? Be on it, but not before it. You're given a couple of tries, a few tries before you're disqualified. But once you do that, then you're going to be more prone to not go on the gun because you're running out of chances. So it's quite a head game. So definitely timing. And another one that I found very interesting, and Sankita, thank you. I saw your stamina. We'll come to that. Another one that was very interesting with timing was long jump. Is if anyone's done long jump, I tried everything to get out of long jump. Hurdles and long jump, I did not enjoy. It's just crazy making. But with long jump, I don't know if people have done it, but you have to come barreling down that preparatory track and hit a board just before you launch yourself into the pit. And you want to hit the board. You don't want to overshoot the board. You're disqualified. And you don't want to be too back behind the board. You want to get right on the board because every inch matters. But you're going full throttle. And so you could try to slow down so that you hit the board properly, but now you're taking away from the distance you might be able to throw your body. So it's really, such again, a level of focus and preparation. What long jumpers will do is, if you ever saw a meet, is that they will count their footsteps back from the board, and there'll be these little sticks and markers on the side of the preparatory track, and that's where each race jumper is going to start. So lots of preparation so you can take full advantage of speed. And then Sangeeta talked about stamina, which is really interesting actually, because usually stamina is connected to a long distance runner. And so to imagine a long distance runner having speed, I'm always in awe when they talk about the first time, they broke the 4 minute for the mile or whatever the case was. I thought, I mean, the pace they have to run at over. So now we're talking endurance to stay that quality over a long period of time takes incredible endurance and tolerance. And another crazy story. So I have no long distance capacity. I've really had to train to build that up physically. But um, really, I wasn't kidding when I said the shorter the better. 50 meters was my favorite because you just start and it's over. You just have to have a good start. But the longest I was forced to do was 200 meters. And when you're in school every year, you're racing against the same people because it's the same grade, the same divisions. Every year for 200 meters, I had to race against the same soul. I even remember her name. It was Jillian Richardson. And it was funny because we had the same initials. I was Judy Rich. She was Jillian Richardson. And at the time, they didn't know that Jillian was actually not a 200-meter runner. She was a 400-meter runner. And she actually went on to the Olympics as a 400-meter runner, but she was not a. So what would happen was the same thing every time. You've got a 50-meter runner going against a 400-meter runner. You can tell what's going to happen, right? So the race would start, and yeah, oh yeah, I'm in front. I'm great. Go past the 100. I'm starting to die. 150. Lord help me. And I could hear it every time. I'd hear Jillian's footsteps gaining because she was just finding her stride, right? Her race was just starting. So she had remarkable stamina that she could sustain. 400 meters, I feel, is probably the most difficult race. High speed, sprint level speed over a full track. It's insane. Whoever would choose to run that is crazy. But to maintain, I had this deep respect. And how do you train for that? How do you maintain that kind of stamina at that quality? So I find what Sangeeta shared very interesting because I feel that it is the call of the time. If there's something I feel in the atmosphere lately, it's a bit of fatigue, not a physical fatigue, an inner fatigue. Souls are getting tired mentally, emotionally. How much longer do we have to be in this arbitrary state, this purgatory, this kind of ambivalent place? Like, how much longer? And I was sharing that the other day that I was really feeling lately a lot. So obviously we're starting to segue into the spiritual perspective, but feeling a lot for the frontline healthcare providers. Just suddenly was hit by this feeling as if you could pick up their vibe, and I couldn't understand what I was feeling. I just was very concerned, quite frankly. And then I was on a conference with a group of souls, and one was in mental health, but working in an integrated team, so with frontline healthcare providers. And in another country, a country where they're feeling a very strong second wave. And it's so interesting having this person on the call. They are a spiritual student, a very long time student of the Brahma Kumaris, who still continues to work in their profession. And they have tools, but you could feel a little bit of fatigue actually in their presence. And she finally did share, because I had shared my thoughts and feelings and concerns, and she shared that yes, there is a distinct feeling, change in feeling among frontline healthcare providers. And she says they are very tired, not just physically, they're just very tired. And they are resigned, as if this wave that they had been trying to fight against. They're just resigned to let it wash them away, do whatever. And it reminded me of a marathon runner who was told you have to run 42K. And they're like, okay, that's like telling me I have to run a marathon. I'm like, it's going to be ugly. If I have to do it, I will. It's not going to be pretty, but if I have to, I will. And then just as you get to the end of the race, you're told, oh, you have to now run another 42K. And they're like, I don't have another 42K. So I think in different ways, souls are feeling this. And I find a very intriguing topic, how to maintain your own enthusiasm, your own energy, your own zeal, your own optimism, just like your resilience, your endurance, just like I'd look at Jillian and go, wow, how's she doing that? How's she getting energy at this 150-meter mark? Can she share it with me? Like how to energize yourself. I find this is the call of the time. So, how to keep that speed, that energy. So, shifting into the spiritual perspective. And yes, we talk a lot about speed, intense effort. We sometimes call it, but speed in the spiritual journey. So, with Raj Yoga, the end game is, or the destination, the finish line is, you can call it your highest potential, or you can call it character transformation, but probably the most appealing thing to call it is peace of mind. They're all the same thing because we believe that inner peace is a result of my own inner state. It has nothing to do with anything outside. So this transformation inside that will support my peace of mind, my happiness, it's all the same thing. So that's the point of Raj Yoga, that no matter what is going on, I have this inner peace, happiness. In fact, there was a few years where Daddy Genki, who was administrative head of the organization, used to give talks, and the theme was always the same. It was feeling great no matter what. that's the finish line in Raj Yoga, feeling great no matter what. And that's a lot, completely to do with my inner state and unlocking the inner capacities of the soul and that inner wisdom. So that's my end game. And so we're making intense effort to reach that. We want to move as quickly as possible, but as accurately as possible towards that end point. And I don't mean to be bleak, but that idea of speed was very much in the forefront when I came into the spiritual study. In the year or two preceding finding the Brahma Kumaris, although it felt like the Brahma Kumaris found me, to be completely honest, I had a time, a moment, a scene where a very close childhood friend, and some of you have heard this story, had suddenly passed away. They had acute leukemia. So at quite a young age, they were in their late 20s, they passed away. And I remember being at the service, and it was a very reflective time for me. I was in my early 20s, and very reflective time. And I remember the uppermost thought in my head was, I have to figure out these big questions of life before I run out of time. Because when a close friend passes away at a young age, it's not logical, but you're convinced the same is going to happen to you at some level. If it can happen to them, so I remember as I approached that age, I was like, okay, am I going to make am I going to make it past 27? So I really felt this urgency of time. And it's like, I've got to figure this out in a very short period of time. And that may not be healthy, but there is a very healthy relationship with time where I want to use it in a worthwhile way. I don't want to waste it because, yes, we don't know what will happen when, and we don't want any regrets. There's something fitness instructors, or at least I like to say when I'm in a class, if I'm teaching a class and you want them to You can see them tiring and you want them to maintain that same high potential to the last minute. And so you say, okay, you've got 30 seconds left in this interval. And at the end of it, you do not want any regrets. When it comes to 0 seconds, you don't want to say, I could have done more. You don't want that feeling. You want to say, I gave it everything I had. No regrets. So that very interesting relationship with time where I use it in such a worthwhile way. And so that sense of speed is that I have a certain amount of time. I've got to maintain a certain quality of effort over that period of time to reach that destination of feeling great no matter what, of really emerging my highest potential. And so everything that you shared in terms of the efficiency, the aerodynamics, the focus, etc., all of that is relevant on a spiritual level. We have a question.
Um, it's regarding silence and stamina.
Which is where we're going. But go ahead.
Well, the reason why I thought of aerodynamic,
Yeah.
actually, I know it sounds a little bit on the science side, but I'm not sure how I was looking. Oh, it must have been about audio and stuff and why rooms have a certain, like, they're
padding, right?
yeah. And they said that they were inspired by how eggs are shaped. And they were noticing why are eggs shaped the way they are. It's because they're not all shaped that way, but when they're shaped that way, that if they roll, they actually roll back towards the nest. And then I was looking up about the science of the of why eggs are shaped that way. It always reminds me. I know some here haven't taken the course yet, but we often see the picture of the world of silence. It looks like an egg, and like, where did that come from? And some other things that they found out in terms of why they build certain things like that is it because it streamlines things, sounds, in terms of how wind and water, how it flows, and the ambiance and all that stuff. So it's really making me think about when we had speed about silence. So my question was about where does stamina and silence in terms of that quality of silence.
So
Keeping that going.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really where this is going, is what is speed in spirituality and physicality. We know speed is moving physically fast, but we also know that everything is the exact opposite when it comes to spirituality. So in spirituality, speed, the speediest souls in reaching and being able to go through transformation are those that can become most still, most silent. And this requires an understanding of what still and silent means spiritually, because every time we use a word, we kind of think in a physical way. So when we hear silence, we think nothing's going on, there's no sound. And when we hear still, it's like, okay, I can't move. And oh my gosh, how am I going to live my life? So we're still thinking in a physical way, but we're talking about spiritual stillness, spiritual silence. So we always use our thoughts as the window or the barometer of what's going on spiritually. So if we're talking about stillness and silence and thoughts, that might help us to get a handle on what this actually looks like spiritually. So we're very used to the idea. We know what it's like when our mind is racing. And we know when our mind is racing, we sometimes say monkey mind, it's all over the place. It's not very efficient. It's not very streamlined. We feel slightly anxious, chaotic, and frenetic. And it comes out in our behavior and approach to things. And it seems everything takes twice as long because we're all over the place and solutions don't come easily. So now we've got more waste going on, which means not useful thoughts, thoughts that are not productive to us. So this speed, this racing of the mind where there's much more thoughts and they're not coherent, they're quite chaotic or anxious driven. And this inefficiency, lots of waste or worries or fears coming in. This is really slowing things down. So through the window of our thoughts, we can tell I'm not in a very still or silent place. I'm actually in a very expansive and frenetic and very racing place. So I'm actually moving very slowly. The energy isn't efficient. I'm not, as you said, aerodynamic. I'm not streamlined. There's a lot of inefficiency or waste. When you're sprinting, what you want to learn to do is obviously make the effort you need to and really train the body to do that, but not have unnecessary movements. So you've got a range of motion, you want a big stride, etc. You train a certain way, but you want to have a very streamlined stride, which is actually um, a very easy. To me, it is very close to what silence looks like. So I will yet again bring up the Bolt. Because Usain Bolt was a classic example of what spiritual silence and stillness actually feels like. So Usain Bolt, of course, was fastest man in the world, 100-meter racer. You have no idea how crazy it is that these souls are doing 100 meters under 10 seconds. It's absolutely amazing. So very interesting. They love to film Usain Bolt. He was so interesting to watch as a runner because he looked like he was going for a Sunday jog. This gazelle moving so smoothly down the track. And, the photographers love to film him coming straight on so they could get the other runners in contrast beside him, who are always behind him. And what you see is Usain Bolt looking focused, recruiting all his energy, but looking relatively relaxed. And the other runners who sadly were trying to catch him looked really strained and their muscles, every muscle was, and it was pretty obvious in the photographs. The contrast was so great. And that's the difference spiritually. To have great easiness in the thoughts, only the necessary thoughts, and very big picture thoughts. Once your attention starts to go into the minutiae, you will be weighted down with inefficient thoughts. But the more you can keep it in the big picture, the less thoughts you will actually have. You will only focus on what really matters. So I see Raj there in the universe. It's very similar to when astronauts go into outer space, right? They have this big picture perspective. There we go. Big picture perspective on the planet. And they suddenly go, all those little petty thoughts that we're having, why? When you have that big picture and you think, what are we fighting over? Like, so much seems unimportant when you have the big picture. So suddenly the thought becomes more still, more silent, just the necessary, and usually the elevated. So silence is a state, it's not where there's nothing going on, but it's where only the necessary, only the elevated. There's really not much waste going on. And what it does is it creates, I love the word in Hindi actually, it's shanti. I think it clarifies because shanti has two translations. One is peace and the other is silence. And so when there is shanti, it means that I am creating thoughts that actually create a peaceful feeling inside. Not no thoughts, but thoughts that create peace, a sense of calm, a sense of stability, even just a sense that everything's okay. That shanti feeling is speed. It really does make us efficient and move more quickly towards our destination. And when there is worries and fears and concerns and anxiety, it's really slowing us down. I mean, we all know, yeah, worrying about it isn't going to get me anywhere. We know that, but we can't seem to stop. So, this is why we work so much in the study of Raj Yoga with a body of knowledge that teaches us, helps us to have different quality of thoughts that will create that shanti feeling, that silence, that stillness, that very peaceful feeling. When we are in that peaceful state, just like what you see, that easiness that you saw with Bolt running down the track, we actually go faster. That is, our spiritual capacities are unlocked. And there is an understanding, I think, that we've all might have heard that those who are yogis need less sleep. Have you ever heard that? They need less sleep. What's going on? Where's their energy coming from? And the reason is that their energy isn't leaking out, actually. A huge sign of, in terms of that endurance, that stamina, a huge sign of what's sapping our enthusiasm and our energy and our really problem solving abilities is actually our own inner stuff. It's nothing outside. It's our own inner stuff. Even if we look at the day, we lead fairly sedentary lives. I only know a handful of people who are really operating in a very physically demanding level during the day. The rest of us are sitting, especially now, sitting in front of the computer a lot. We lead fairly sedentary lives, and yet we feel so tired. We feel like amoebas, sacks of potatoes. What's going on? Why are we so drained? And it's amazing how this activity in here, every thought requires energy, is draining us rather than energizing us. There is one quality of thought that does give us energy, and we mentioned it before, elevated thoughts. Again, the type of thoughts that take us into Shanti. Elevated thoughts energize us. And I'm sure you've experienced that, where you feel like you're in a challenging situation or you do require endurance or you have to do something and you just feel, oh man, people want me to come to this event. I don't know if I have the energy. And it's all how you think about it, your attitude is going to determine how things go. I remember listening to one of the seniors, Sister Mohini, who's the regional coordinator for the Americas and Caribbean of the Brahma Kumaris, and she was sharing a story. It's from quite a while ago, but the demands on her are enormous. Everybody and anybody wants her to visit their country and tour their this and do this. I mean, and still it continues, even online. How many meetings that she's had with different BK centers around the world, time zones are different. So, but earlier it was traveling a lot. And this was one such scenario where she was asked to travel. You often arrive jet lagged, and there's lots of meetings. And it was yet another meeting, and she literally was like, sort of chit chat with God, saying, "Oh, I'm really tired. I'm really exhausted." And it's like, but she has a deep love for service and support, so wants to be there. And then she said to the audience, "Can I just have a couple of minutes? Just a couple of minutes, just quiet time." And so she went into a room and literally just recharged herself with her own thoughts and was totally refreshed and was able to continue with the program. And I don't know how many times, I remember there was one incident. It was a crazy program in New York. It was the launch of an initiative. And one of the souls involved, who was really like the production manager for this thing, again, a BK student, but had lots of experience in productions. It was going to be a production. It was a show. The launch was a show, and there were all of us there. And there was technical aspects, and they were managing a lot. And they arrived in New York, and then very soon, a day or two after, it was clear that they were quite sick. They had quite a bad cold, and I remember, and I was with them, like, let's walk to the theater. It'll be great. And they're like, okay. And we tried it once, and then the rest of the time was taxis because they were just so physically drained. But it was fascinating to watch them because when they were in the theater and interact, and everybody was calling their name to ask them questions. They had to. No one knew that they were sick. No one. They were completely energized. They didn't even know they were sick. Completely energized. And after the end, it was like, they go again. Oh. I was like, what's going on here? And they were aware. They said, I don't know. Is it when I'm there? I just, I'm having certain kinds of thoughts, and it's just this. I go into this inner state. It was fascinating to watch the power of our inner activity in terms of managing our energy, our stamina, how important focus is. If I focus on a problem, it will drain, it will suck all of my energy. It's okay if I'm finding a solution, that's a different thing. But when I just sort of get mired in the details of the problem, it is the fastest way to slow yourself down to a complete standstill and sap all of your stamina. Sorry? Yeah, the question is the same as focusing on how tired I am. If I keep saying I'm so tired, I will probably feel tired. So it just speaks to the quality of what's going on inside. So if I want to move quickly, spiritually, in my self transformation again towards that peace and that happiness and that dignity, I really have to take care of the quality of my thoughts and therefore attitudes, which really drive the thoughts. Really be very careful with them. And are they really based on shanti? Are they coming from that peaceful place? And I liked when you mentioned the egg or the womb, because probably the most powerful thoughts we have spiritually that give us a lot of speed, a lot of energy, are thoughts about what we call our eternal self. And this is like our womb like self, if you will, our eternal self. It's not a physical that we're talking about, but as spiritual beings, to go so deeply into our timeless sense of self, beyond the bounds of the body, that timeless sense of self, I, the living being, the soul, to go deeply into not just thoughts, but actually feelings, experiences, to become it. The word swarup or embodiment is used to really feel, okay, there's me, and then there's this body around me. And this is why the top phrase we use in this study, this organization, is Om Shanti. It is the most powerful. It's like a booster. It gives so much speed and enthusiasm to the soul when I go deeply into the experience of Om Shanti. Om means I am, specifically, I am a soul, and Shanti, the embodiment of peace. When I go in, and that's saying whatever is going on, because everything going on externally in the physical realm is temporary. It's constantly changing. It's all temporary. It will come and it will go. But Om Shanti, this timeless, I am always a soul. Whatever else is going on, I'm always a soul. And my true nature is peace. This is something that it's like my DNA. I may not be experiencing it at times because I forget that I'm a soul, but it's still in my DNA, spiritual DNA. And when I come back to that womb like or that eternal self, that eternal understanding of myself, it will every single time, if I am authentically there, it will move me forward. If I'm stuck, it will move me forward very quickly, and it will energize me, and it will also ground me, center me, stabilize me, reassure me. There's so many benefits to going into that timeless or eternal sense of self. So when I think of speed spiritually, it's really looking at what kind of mastery do I have over the experience of shanti, of that stillness. So I'll end with the last story, which is really integrating. And I know many of you have heard this before, but when I did run track and field, and this was before encountering, well before encountering this spiritual study, I remember every single time when I'd have to get to the starting block, we were told, we were trained that you have to have your muscles very ready. You know, it's a bit like the tennis player, you know, how they're bouncing when they're about to receive it. You got to be ready. You got to be ready. So at the starting block, you see the runners kind of bouncing and shaking, right? They're keeping their muscles warm. They're keeping their muscles warm. So that's what we were trained to do. So if you were looking at the start of a race that I happened to be in, and you sort of would pan down the 8 lanes and you'd see all the runners doing this, and then you come to Judy, and then you go back to the other. I don't know what was going on. It was just this instinct inside. I would become extremely introverted. I don't even know if I was aware of the body. I was just, I don't know, there was some pull to touch something very calm, quiet, still. Even though I was about to, do this very physically explosive thing, there was this instinct to become very quiet, very, very quiet and calm, as if that was a source of energy. I wouldn't say I articulated that. It's just what I would do. And I remember getting into the starting block and again being extremely focused and introverted. And the moment that gun went off, it was like craziness, rocket. But up until that point, and the reason I'm saying is that there is something incredibly powerful about stillness, not emptiness, but stillness, silence, concentration of the self into that timeless, peaceful state is extremely powerful. It's like we call it atmic energy, not atomic energy. That's physical. Atma means soul, atmic energy. And then the moment that atmic energy comes into movement, all of the capacities of the soul are expressed. So if there is a need for patience or kindness or problem solving or wisdom, all the capacities are available at full throttle if I touch that silence. And we have received a couple of messages now from the headquarters of the organization guiding us to spend more time mastering that shanti, that silence. Literally saying, if there is a problem, go into that silence and use the power of that silence to guide you in how best to address the problem or position yourself relative to the problem. The silence will do the work because it unlocks the capacities of the self. We have remarkable capacities as souls. We talk about the greatness of the human spirit, but they're largely untapped because we're not touching that timeless experience of the self. We're still relying on physicality, which is quite cumbersome compared to spiritual capacity, which is very quick, very subtle, very accurate. So I'm looking at the time. I'm going to stop there. I don't know how much we address the topic, but there you go. Is there anything anyone wants to share or ask at this point before we end with a reflection? Are we okay out there? Okay, great. Got an electronic thumbs up. I like that. Oh, we got a second. It's just kind of fun if you want to try it. It's just not because you actually want to give a thumbs up. It's just fun. I think you can do other things too. I don't know. Anyways, let's end with a reflection. I'm trying to see if there's announcements tomorrow. Pretty important. 6:30 to 7:30 World Meditation Hour. So again, this seems so relevant and useful right now to go into that state of shanti for the self and let those rays of peace reach where they need to. So very beautiful World Meditation Hour. And coming out soon, save the date, will be the announcement about an online New Year's Eve program, which we just confirmed. So it will be online. And we have two wonderful guests joining us. One is Tanya, who is coordinator of the Brahma Kumari Center in Montreal. She is a former performer. And so she will be joined by Denzel Sinclair, who is a world-class jazz singer and also a student of the Brahma Kumaris. So they will be a little bit of singing, but also sharing their insights on how best to embrace the new year. It will be an interview with those two. So that information will be coming out soon. It's December 31st on Zoom. 6:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So look out for those details or check our website. It will, I think it's on the website actually under online programs. So I tried. So let's end with a reflection. Even though my physical body might be still, not moving, my mind is still very active. And there's so much power in the thoughts my mind creates. I could think about a place I traveled to in the past, London, Hawaii, Africa, and at top speed, in 1 second, in the vehicle of my mind, I can arrive there. That's how powerful the mind is, how fast the mind is. So I want to take great care how I'm using the vehicle of the mind. Am I using it to move towards my destination? Stability, peace, dignity. Am I using my thoughts to move in that direction? And what thoughts will move me in that direction at top speed? Thoughts about my eternal self, my timeless state, are so elevated, so transcending. They allow me to touch my highest potential in a second. And so I use the power of my mind now to really remember the self, reunite with the true timeless self, I, the soul. I, the soul, am not physical. I currently reside in this physical body, and I express through it, looking out through the windows of the eyes and listening through the ears. I am the thinker inside. The feeling of almost sitting here behind the forehead, the penthouse of this very tall building, which is the body. An incredible relationship between me, the being, the life force, and this body, the costume I wear to express through. I need the body to express in this physical realm, but I don't need it to exist. The body needs me. Without me, this body will fall down and cease to function. I am the life in this body. While the body is perishable, limited in duration, I am eternal, timeless. I've always existed and will always exist. I do not die. That's freedom. And such a sense of security, a feeling that whatever happens, I'll be okay. That sense of calm, free from worry, bringing me closer and closer to my true nature, what I've been seeking outside, which is peace in my heart, at my core. I am a being of peace. I, the soul. It is like being the eye of a storm. All sorts of things can be happening around me, and I remain the calm observer, connected to my true nature, knowing I can get through anything. I am eternal. That deep sense of calm that slows down the mind, makes it light. And when the mind is light, it can travel at the speed of light. No fears, no worries. Completely light, free to fill with that feeling of peace. And the moment that I am completely stable and centered in that state of peace, in that moment I've taken a long jump forward, a high jump upwards, closer to my highest potential, that state of dignity. Om Shanti. Thank you so much for joining today. So we had not scheduled an inner fitness next weekend, which is the 26th. We just weren't sure what souls would be up to. We're happy to offer one if you would like one. So we're going to see what your feedback is right now. I know people have lives, but which is really good. Who would be wanting an inner fitness next weekend? We're happy to offer one. Raj, very good. Okay, we have 50%. Okay, Sanke. Okay, well, there you go. we'll, we'll we'll offer an inner fitness next weekend. We'll be here, and we'll send it out in our weekly notes. But I just want to thank you for being here today. It was lovely to see you all. If I don't see you again over the holiday season, please enjoy this holiday season. Take care of yourself. Feed yourself spiritually. When you feed yourself spiritually, you can feed yourself as much sweets as you like, and and we don't get fat. We just get more peaceful. It's a problem when we do that physically, but spiritually, it's no problem. You just get sweeter and sweeter. It's okay. So feed yourself lots of spiritual sweets. Take care. Stay light. And if not before, we'll see you in the new year. Om Shanti. Thank you for joining. Bye.